Dane, did you get that push?
Yeah. Welcome to beautiful downtown Grand Forks. It is Monday, January 26th. This is the time and place for the Grand Forks Committee of the Whole meeting. Item number 1 is welcome and roll call.
Weigel.
Here.
Selsky. Berg.
Here.
Flensky.
Here.
Friedels.
Here.
President Sandy.
Here.
Thank you, Dana. And Veen.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Item number 2 is informational items. 2.1 Gov delivery notifications. I believe we probably just got those, Mr. Bernstrom.
Yes, you did. You guys have officially received the first notification sent by the city of Grand Forks through Gov Delivery. That wasn't a phishing attempt on your phone. That was me. So sorry about that. So the city of Grand Forks is partnering with Gov Delivery, and we are changing our e-notification system a little bit with an addition. So currently, with the city website, you can sign up through your email to get meeting notices, news releases, bids, RFPs. We currently have 3,748 people signed up with their email account. And of those emails, when we send them out, we get about a 30% open rate. So for example, this meeting here today, 253 emails were sent out, 82 people opened the email, 32%. Council President Sandy, you first got elected in 2010, so that would have been June of 2010. So I believe in July of 2010, you started asking me about text messages for e-notifications, and that sounds about right. And I started looking into it. Early on, it was not cost effective at all. It was very expensive. You got charged per text. That system has kind of changed. It's gotten more affordable. And a year ago, we started taking a look, and we came across Gov Delivery here. Holly found it, and she goes, I think this is going to work. Gov Delivery is owned by the same company that does our website, Granicus, and the price has gotten much more affordable. So just to give an idea, once we saw the price more affordable, I reached out to IT. I'm like, hey, is this something we can do on an annual basis? They said, I think we can. Let's get through the 2026 budget discussion that you had last summer. That went well, even with the 3% cap. And here we are. I signed a 3-year contract with Gov Delivery, and the cost is $3,800 to set up, and then about $8,000 annually, with an increase of 7% year 1 to year 2, 7% year 2 to year 3. That is based on 100,000 text messages. The big thing with Gov Delivery is now part of our e-notifications, we can include text messages. People have to sign up with their phone number, but that is an option for them now. It's based on 100,000 text messages. If we surpass that 100,000, because I don't know how many people are going to sign up. This is new for us. So if we surpass that 100,000, Gov Delivery says no problem. We'll go back and take a look, whether that's a renegotiation of the contract or us on our end, we can determine what a text message goes to. Maybe it's not every meeting, maybe it's only city council meetings. Maybe it's not every news release, maybe it's only road construction news releases, and we can make those adjustments. So it's an addition for people to sign up for to get their text messages. So here's what's going to happen here this week. I'm presenting to you guys here today because I wanted you guys to hear it first before some of this stuff starts happening this week. We're going to send out a news release tomorrow indicating our partnership with Gov Delivery. And within that news release, those that have already signed up, those 3,748 people, they're going to get a notification on Thursday from Gov Delivery through the city saying city has moved over to Gov Delivery. This is legit. Save this email address. And you also have the option to sign up for text messaging and with a link to go adjust their account if they would like. That first notification will go out on Thursday. Also later this week, we're going to put a pop-up on our homepage. So when people go to the city website, they'll see an opportunity to sign up for Gov Delivery at that point too through the city of Grand Forks. And we intend to start using Gov Delivery next week. So with that, I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bernstrom. Any questions for him at this time? Mr. Sandy?
Thank you, Mr. Bernstrom, for your tenacity. I really appreciate you sticking with this for me.
No problem.
Who knew President Sandy was ahead of his time with technology back in 2010?
All right. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Mr. Bernstrom. We'll move on to item number 3.1, consideration of amendment to Class 3 alcoholic beverage license for proposed new business. Ms. Lamarck.
Vice President Weigel, members of the committee, bringing forward today a proposal that came into the Finance Department from Annie Larson. As you saw in your staff report, she likes wine and she likes chocolate, and she is planning to open up a chocolate shop in the Grand Cities Mall and would like the ability to do some gift packages and package the signature wines that she's developed with a winery in California, and be able to also have those available. This business model does not currently match anything we have in city code. So while we had initially talked about, modification to the Class 3, upon final review by staff and Mr. Gosted and his team, it may come down to where, if council is willing to look at this concept a little more in depth and go forward with it, where we may need to look at just doing a different new specialty class of license to accommodate this. But Ms. Larson is here and willing to, share information on her business plan in detail with the committee or answer any questions you guys might have. Looking for your direction.
Thank you, Ms. Lundmark. Ms. Slunsky.
So in the Grand Cities Mall, there used to be a wine place, right? Is it similar to that? And how did they?
So the one that used to be in Grand Cities Mall they actually made the wine there. So they were a little different than this. This would be wine that's made at the winery in California. And then she would just be selling it as part of these gift baskets or potentially in a little seating area where they can enjoy wine and chocolate. But
So you could actually consume wine at this location.
well, I'll let Ms. Larson fill you in on the details of that. But I believe that was referenced in the staff report or in her letter as well. So
So what I'm looking for is to be able to sell wine by the bottle in the store with minors present. And the class licenses so far, you have to have 50% of your income coming from restaurant style food in a sit down environment. We have 90% of our income coming in from chocolates, and we will offer seating and everything, but I would like to be able to sell wine by the bottle and packaged in gift boxes and things like that on site. I do also want to offer experiences later in the evening, something by reservation and for 21 and older only. And that's to pair wine with different chocolates, talk about the difference between the grape and how it's processed, how it's made. This would only be wine that I am branding myself. So I wouldn't have like any other wine from different liquor stores in the building, just this own unique brand.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Ms. Burke.
Is there a reason why you want the evening events to be 21 plus and not maybe open to a family friendly environment?
Well, I was doing that to hopefully get the liquor license and just have it where it's 21 and older if that's what it needed to be. It would be great to be able to have family gatherings, rent out the space for that, different Christmas parties, things like that, and have kids present. But I would be willing to have just 21 and older parties to be able to serve wine.
I'd be interested in expanding that and not just having a 21
perfect.
plus.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Berg. Mr. Friedels.
So we've had a lot of discussions in here about making sure like IDs are checked and that kind of stuff. So I want to make sure so do we hold this to the same, we obviously would hold it to the same standard as an off sale somewhere. I mean, because someone could come in under 21 and buy wine and leave with it. So I just think there's a lot that goes with checking IDs and that kind of stuff. I just want to make sure we're following the same kind of rules across the board.
I would hope to get training set in place for all the employees. Any people working for me cannot actually sell the wine. Only an adult, someone over 21. So we would have all the training in place.
And I agree with Tricia to open it up larger. Great concept.
Thank you. Chief Friedman was shaking his head as well as far as the checks and everything. So, is there? Ms.
I'll
Berg?
make a motion to approve to move forward to make this classification or have Mr. Gosted draft something up and include it more than 21.
We have a motion by Berg, second by Lunsky. Further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 3.2, create special assessment district for project number 8850.02, district number 801, paving and streetlights for South 34th from 45th to 47th Avenue South.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Berg, second by Friedolfs. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item 3.3, plans and specs for project number 9048, street and storm sewer repair on 2400 block of Columbia Road. Mr. Veen? We have a motion to approve by Mr. Veen, second by Ms. Lunsky. Seeing no further comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. 3.4, create special assessment district for project number 9050, district number 797, reconstruct 5th Avenue South, Demers Avenue to Washington Street, and 9101, district number 631, storm sewer for 5th Avenue South from Demers to Washington Street.
Motion
Thoughts?
to approve.
You have a motion to approve by Ms. Berg, second by Mr. Friedolfs. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. 3.5, create special assessment district for project number 9060, district number 798, reconstruct 17th Avenue South from South Columbia to South 20th Street. Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice President Weigel, members of the committee.
If you just want to turn your microphone on, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Weigel, members of the committee. This project consists of reconstructing the roadway on 17th Avenue South from South Columbia Road to South 20th Street. The existing roadway was originally constructed in 1968. The proposed reconstruction will consist of replacing the existing pavement, improving some of the storm sewer, installing RFBs, replacing streetlight conduit and conductors, relocation of a fire hydrant, and ADA improvements. The total construction cost for this project is estimated at $3 million, and the city share is currently at $2.1 million, which will be funded from the Street and Infrastructure Fund 4815. So with this, staff recommends to approve the engineer's report, create the special assessment district, and direct engineering department to create plans and specs for this project.
Perfect. Thank you for your time. Mr. Bean.
Yeah, just a quick couple comments. First of all, it's overdue. I'm glad we're finally doing it. It needs it badly and appreciated. I think the question that I had asked earlier today was the timing of it and how it's working with the also the issue of the reconstruction of 42nd and Demers Avenue. And you may have a response to that.
Sure. Council Vice President Weigel and Councilmember Bean. I think the question was, the concern later in the agenda, we're going to be talking about the 42nd and Demers underpass and kind of what the construction will parlay over the next 2 years and how open it will be. And I think Mr. Bean's concern was, should we be reconstructing the street at the same time we're reconstructing? And so I was going to ask Mr. Karenko to come up here and just kind of give us how the construction will look at that intersection on 42nd and Demers.
Mr. Weigel?
Yes,
what's
Mr.
your thought? Well,
Go ahead, President
Mr. Karenko, what's the timing on the construction for 17th Avenue South as well, please? Thank you.
It is anticipated that this will all be completed in the 2026 construction season.
Thank you, but what about, is it going to be under construction while the students are at Red River, or is it during the summer while the students are out?
We have coordinated with the school, but this will also likely begin during the end of their school year this year, as well as bleed into the fall next year.
Thank you.
So you probably know, with the detour routes that are going to likely occur on Demers, and this could be a likely detour location, is there an issue with that? That's just what I was wondering.
Councilmember Veen, the majority of the detour routes on this one, yeah, I think we ended up looking at some of the local traffic using 17th and going back up Columbia. This project is reconstruction further east of that intersection. So that detour traffic would still be able to use 17th to get up to Columbia, and that wouldn't necessarily impact this project or vice versa. So we're not anticipating any particular issues between the two projects.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Mr. Veen. Comments or motions?
Make a motion to approve.
Mr. Veen makes a motion to approve, second by Mr. Friedolfs. Further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. 3.6, create special assessment districts, approve engineer reports, and approve engineering services task orders for projects number 9094, 9095, 9096, and 9097, districts number 629, 369, 630, and 803, sanitary sewer, water main, storm sewer, and paving streetlights for Grand Park First Edition. Mr. Lieberman.
Good evening. Thank you.
Approval.
We have a motion to approve by Sandy, second by Berg. Thank you, Mr. Lieberman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. 3.7 is CPMA and CMA for project number 8823, reconstruction of the intersection of North Dakota 297, Demers Avenue and 42nd Street. Mr. Kranko.
Good evening, Council Vice President Weigel and members of the committee. This underpass project has been in the works for decades, and both city staff and DOT staff have been working very closely regarding the design and the financing of this intersection over the past couple of years. We're right now approaching kind of that finish line to get this project bid and constructed. Before you tonight are two agreements. The first one is the cost participation and maintenance agreement, the CPMA, between the city and the DOT. And the second agreement is the construction and maintenance agreement, or CMA, between the city, DOT, and BNSF. The CPMA with the DOT is traditionally an agreement that discusses how the project is funded, what's to occur during and after construction, and because of the complexity of this project and the funding with this one, there are a handful of differences in this agreement than the council and the committee has seen in the past for other CPMAs. In a traditional CPMA, the state and federal funding is capped, and any project overages are the responsibility of the local public agency or the city in that regard. Because of the fact that the city council approved the memorandum of understanding a little while back, the city costs in this agreement are capped at $21,633,000. Mentioned before that this project has been in the works for decades. Over 30 years ago, the city council ended up purchasing or approving the purchase of land in the southwest quadrant. And part of the CPMA identifies that these parcels are going to be used for the construction of the project, and the city is going to be responsible for replatting and dedicating the right-of-way for the Backage Road, as well as 7th Avenue, that jug handle road going into it. The last major item is going to be the ownership of the bridges. The DOT will end up owning the roadway bridge for Demers Avenue, and that's because that is a state highway, and the city will own the railroad bridge. The DOT is unable to take ownership of the railroad bridge as it's not in conflict with a state highway, so they can't take over it because of that. Now, the railroad bridge here is going to be very, very similar in nature that the city has for the Columbia Road overpass. City owns and maintains the Columbia Road overpass, and so in kind of a similar function, we're going to be taking ownership of the railroad bridge. Both of these locations are eligible for federal funding through the Urban Roads Program, and so we can end up taking care of maintenance activities with that. The other piece on that too, or is there a question? No, okay. Last kind of piece on here that's a little bit different than other projects we've seen is that the city is also going to be responsible for a portion of fence that is going to be going from the railroad bridge to the east. Moving on to the CMA between the city, the DOT, and BNSF. The maintenance for this is actually going to be split 50% city and 50% BNSF. Am I getting an echo?
I think there's just some feedback coming through.
So this is actually kind of a benefit because we don't typically see a 50-50 cost share between the city and BNSF on maintenance activities. The remainder of the agreement is relatively consistent with what BNSF has for their CMA template. This agreement also ends up identifying a number of other routine activities which the city is going to be allowed to continue to do, such without getting prior authorization from BNSF. These are things like snow removal, street sweeping, maintaining guardrails, fences, that sort of thing. It also has language in there as to requirements of if a contractor goes in, if a city contractor goes in to do other more significant maintenance repairs like spall repairs, bridge maintenance, that sort of thing. When it comes to the funding of the local share for this project, we are anticipating using a combination of SRF loans through the drinking water SRF program, as well as the clean water SRF program. We're also looking at potentially using Bank of North Dakota loans, as well as using cash on hand through our Street and Infrastructure Fund 4815. The staff recommendation that I have in the report includes and any necessary budget amendment. This is intended not to provide any kind of increase beyond that 21.6 million. This is more intended to allow finance the opportunity to find the best rate and best financing options possible for this project. And with that, staff is recommending approval of both the CPMA and the CMA contingent upon a review from the city attorney and any necessary budget amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Kranko. Questions, Mr. Bean?
Thank you. With city ownership of the railroad bridge, is there any risks and or liabilities that we are taking on that we need to be aware of?
Ooh, that is a good question. When it comes to looking at insurance requirements, I believe, is it Joanna now that's handling our insurance requirements? That is something that we can definitely touch base with our finance department and find out insurance requirements. Otherwise, beyond other liabilities, I'm not 100% sure as to other aspects we might be running into for that. The city would have ownership of the bridge, but we would also have a 50-50 maintenance cost share with BNSF.
I'm not for sure if it's right. The insurance reserve or whatever, is there something along that line that would cover us?
Yeah, that's exactly what Mr. Kringle was talking about, is your memorandum of coverage to the North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund would have to be reviewed to assure that they're aware that this is an asset owned by the city and to make sure that they've got the coverage for it.
Yeah, because if there was a derailment or something of that matter, if as an owner, there could be implications.
I think along the derailment piece, the BNSF Railway would still be responsible for maintaining their tracks on the bridge itself.
Thank you, Mr. Bean. Further questions? Any motions? Motion to approve by Mr. Friedel, second by Ms. Berg. Further comments, Mr. Bean?
If there is issues that we have with this motion, can it come back to us if there's something that needs to be adjusted or changed?
Well, you think that's directed to me. It's like anything else that you own. There's risk attendant with ownership of any asset, and things can go awry. And that's why you want to make sure that you reach out to the North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund to assure that they're aware that this is an asset that we're gonna own, to make sure that we've got adequate coverage over it. It's probably not going to cover everything, but there are some limitations to liability that are afforded under North Dakota law with respect to municipal liability. So that's helpful. It doesn't mean it's going to get rid of everything, but that's the best way to try to protect yourself is, again, make sure that you've reached out to the reserve fund and advise them that we're now going to own this bridge and it's covered and do what you can to try to minimize those risks.
Thank you, Mr. Gostin. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Kranko. Item number 3.8, decision document for project number 8951 US 2 and Airport Road intersection improvements with a couple attachments. Mr. Kranko.
Good evening again. I'm joined tonight with Michael Johnson with the NDDOT in Bismarck, Thomas Faulkner from Olteg, who's the engineer working on this project. We also have County Commissioner Bjerke in the audience as well, and NDDOT District Engineer Ed Pavlish. The decision document itself is the first requirement for a federal project. It's intended to provide a general description of the project need, general plan, and also obtaining public and outside agency comments on the proposed alternatives. Afterwards, the DOT and FHWA will end up making a final determination as to what project alternative to proceed with. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Faulkner for a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Kranko.
Good evening, council members. Thomas Faulkner with Olteg. I'm going to run through the first slides real quick just to save time and really focus on the back end where we talk about public input and stakeholder input and what we've seen throughout the last couple months. Real quick schedule. We've been working on this project since December of 2024. So trying to wrap up everything we've done the last couple months into one. We just finished up our public involvement with the city of Grand Forks and representatives and locals in the area in December. And we have that feedback in a public involvement report, which is available to all of you. And then moving into the decision document really to determine which alternative we want to carry forward to the environmental document. Once we get through this decision document, we'll move into the environmental document, which will set up the project for future design and construction once funding is available, if it comes available. Real quick, before we go too deep in the alternatives, I want to call out the known constraints that need to be taken into account when you're evaluating the alternatives. Key ones in this area is the gravel operation on the southwest corner of the intersection, the English Coulee watershed drainage ditch on the southeast corner of the intersection. There is a water booster station owned by the city of Grand Forks, which feeds both the airport and the Grand Forks Air Force Base in the northeast corner. And then most importantly, we have the one-way protection zone off the Grand Forks Airport, which actually falls through US 2 on the south side. Those are very critical as you're looking through these alternatives because all the alternatives will have different impacts on each. Real quick, we're completed to date. We've done all the field surveys. We've conducted a traffic operations report. We've completed the environmental studies to include wetland delineation. We've had robust engagement with our stakeholder working group, which includes the city, county, MPO, and several others within the area. We've conducted a management presentation with the North Dakota DOT, and we've completed 2 public input meetings in November. I apologize. I said December. It was actually November. Time flies. So real quick, I do want to highlight that we've had a very engaging group of stakeholders. We've held 4 meetings. These first 3 are prior to the public input meeting, just to make sure we are aligned with where all the organizations that have a stake into the project line. To highlight not all these words, but we started out this project with 12 different alternatives, really trying to figure out what works for this intersection in this corridor. That first one, we discussed the existing geometry, reduced conflict intersection, revised geometry, staggered T intersection, roundabouts. Like I said, you name it, we discussed it. With that, we saw a pretty quick delineation of steering towards that roundabout and interchange alternatives just based on how traffic operates in this area and what we believe folks would be allowed or be more amenable to, which led to our second stakeholder meeting, which really dove a little bit deeper into the interchange options and the roundabouts and just gave more information. And you'll see on the right-hand side there, pulse check with all stakeholders. We started driving further into that roundabout alternative option with the interchanges still within reason. This led to a September 8th meeting, just really trying to hammer out what we wanted to show the public. So all the stakeholders were aligned. With that, still holding on towards that roundabout alternative being the selected alternative of choice, with interchanges really close there too. While we're doing the stakeholder meetings, we did hold a North Dakota DOT management presentation. I just wanted to talk about their guidance and feedback from that. When we went through the presentation, they really focused on the background and project overview, which all of you are aware of this intersection and the issues that we've had over the years. Schedule known constraints, the alternatives still under consideration, traffic operations, and cost and funding. as a result of this, we really sat down what the DOT directed us to do, and we did for the public input meeting, is really hammer out the cost estimates. We have robust cost estimates to make sure we know truly what we're going to be spending on each of these alternatives. We talked about the public input meeting and the necessity to have two of them. We did our best to get the word out, and having two meetings, I think, did produce some more attendees to give visibility on the project. As part of that management presentation, we did have a third roundabout option called a turbo roundabout. We elected not to pursue that one or move forward with that just because of snow removal, maintenance, other issues that we were concerned with. And it really didn't provide a lot of additional benefit compared to the 2x1 or the single lane. We discussed the Cloverleaf versus Diamond interchange. One feedback that we get from the North Dakota DOT on why we would look more towards the Diamond interchange is for those oversized loads or height restrictions. With the Diamond interchange, it affords them the opportunity to detour right there with the ramps versus a Cloverleaf having to detour outside of the interchange. And then just continue stakeholder engagement prior to the public input meeting and after, and that's why I'm here tonight. You guys requested, and we are glad to share what we found. So real quick on the roundabout alternatives, we ultimately ended up with two different roundabout alternatives pushed forward, the single lane and the 2x1. I did place paper copies in front of you, and you also have a digital copy of that. The key things I want to call out between the single lane and the 2x1 is the single lane is exactly what it is. There's one single lane around the circumference of the circle. To note on this one, we do have slip lanes for the eastbound or the westbound right going up to the airport and the eastbound right going south on County Road 5 to allow that traffic to diverge off the roundabout and not have to go through the roundabout. I do want to note with a single lane, we do transition traffic on US 2 to one lane prior to getting to the roundabout. On the 2 lane or the 2x1, the key thing here is we maintain those 2 lanes on US 2 eastbound and westbound throughout the roundabout. And if you look going north and south on County Road 5 and airport, that's where it's a single lane within there. Once again, we removed the turbo roundabout from consideration. On the interchange alternatives, you'll see here a diamond interchange. We called it a shift and diamond interchange. Essentially what we had to do to stay outside of that RPZ was move the interchange or the County Road 5 and airport drive about 300 feet to the east. What this does is it pulls out those ramps going back onto US 2 away from the RPZ, so we're not introducing vehicular traffic within the RPZ. If we do impact that RPZ, we have to do a little bit more analysis in coordination with the FAA. But generally, good rule of thumb is don't impact RPZs. It's there for a reason. With that, just once again, the partial cloverleaf, we pulled that away just to allow for those detours of oversized equipment. Real quick on cost estimating and funding. As I said before, after the management presentation, they really had us do a robust analysis on the cost estimate. With that, they wanted to focus on inflation to make sure we have today's dollars, but how does that look in the future? With the roundabouts, we found it feasible to be able to get through the planning, design, environmental, and then ultimately construction within the next 4 years. So with that, we estimated a 6.3 and an 8.9 respectively cost today, leading to 8.5 and a $12 million cost in 4 years. For the diamond interchange, with the amount of study needed to push a diamond interchange forward, that's going to lengthen out your environmental phase and then ultimately your final design and right-of-way costs. We'll talk about right-of-way a little bit here in a bit, but there will be right-of-way acquisition, which also lengthens that project development lifespan. And then overall, just getting funding and planning and construction, we're looking at about 10 years for the diamond interchange. So with the today's dollar of $46.2 million, 8% inflation, we're looking at $99.7 million in 10 years. Real quick, with all this in hand, we did conduct 2 public input meetings. I just want to give a shout out to the Lair Center, City of Grand Forks and Grand Forks County. They got us into the Lair Center for free and really help with participation. Number of attendees, we had 83, which is a pretty decent number. Results, they had 16 comments via email, mail, phone calls, and then 10 comments received during the Q&A portions of the public input meeting. Just a summary of what we saw in those comments. Driver behavior was a big piece, both via questions during the public input meeting and emails, letters, you say it. Really just trying to figure out, is this the right answer? Or are there things we could do with speeding, driver attention, and everything you list there? I will say over the years, there have been quite a few things implemented at this intersection to include flashing yellow warning arrow or flashing warnings, different striping, lighting. There's been a lot put in there for driver behavior. It's still an issue, though. I will say that. Roundabout opposition. There was both roundabout opposition and roundabout support. I would say the roundabout opposition, a lot of the opposition came back to what is it going to look like when I drive a truck through here? Or what does this do? Do I have to slow down? What does winter operations look like? We responded to those. It is designed for heavy truck traffic. There won't be any vehicles on US 2 that won't make it through these roundabouts. And then winter operations, we built a map, and we can show you that at the end, of all the roundabouts already within the state of North Dakota and Minnesota, and show that it's already working with winter operations. Those with support, the biggest thing we took away from folks supporting the roundabouts is that it can be implemented quicker than the interchange. Can we get something in the next 4 years to try to change the situation, or do we want to wait moving forward? As far as interchange support, I will say the interchange probably still had the strongest support, just for the fact that it's a very long-term solution. Allows US 2 traffic to not slow down, not stop, not be impeded, keep their speeds up there, and also County Road 5 in the airport. Generally, public opinion favors the interchange alternative as it's familiar and known to them. The roundabout alternative supporters favor it for cost and expediency. There are, once again, lots of comments on speeding, distracted driving, and driver behavior. It's really tough, just that doesn't fall within the scope of this project we're talking about today, but there is a lot of concern from the public on those items. So real quick, getting to the decision document, I will say, before we get to the decision document, we did hold one more stakeholder meeting after the public input meeting and shared all that information with them. And we had a resounding collaboration, cohesion around the roundabout option, mainly because it is something we can implement in the near term. So overall, the next step is the decision document. It's going to outline purpose and need for the project. The alternatives we put forth in the decision document is option A, alternative A, no build, a roundabout single lane, a roundabout 2x1, and a shifted diamond interchange. Engineering environmental issues, just to keep in mind, utilities, there will be utilities impacted throughout the corridor, the water booster station, the runway protection zone being key issues. And then on the environmental side, aquatic resources for both. And then if an interchange is introduced, we'll have to do a noise analysis to determine what the impacts are there. So real quick, I'm not going to read all this verbatim. I'm just going to highlight some of the key pieces. Both the one lane or the single lane and the 2x1, they're both going to give you greater operational advantages to what's existing today. They are going to be able to handle future traffic. We did to the 2050 timeframe for traffic analysis. They are going to reduce crash potential and severity at this location. And there's going to be fewer stops and hard accelerations at this location. This versus the interchange, they're going to be lower cost, quicker to implement, and minimal right-of-way needs. Some of the disadvantages to the roundabout is complex phasing, which we can figure that out as we get there. And then traffic will still need to slow down and yield before entering that roundabout. That is something the public kept asking, and I want you guys all to be aware of. Yes, you will have to slow down as we get to the roundabouts. Two differences between the single lane and the 2x1 I want to call out is the single lane had a little bit less crash potential than the 2x1. The 2x1, what we're seeing is there may be the potential for large truck traffic to encroach on adjacent lanes as they go through the roundabout. The advantage that the 2x1 has over the single lane is it has greater operational capacity, so for future traffic. And then as far as the northbound, southbound minor legs, they're able to get into that roundabout quicker than a single lane. A single lane might have to wait for that gap to open up on US 2. As far as the shifted diamond interchange, the biggest advantages obviously are you're maintaining continuous flow on US 2, eastbound, westbound, and then County Road 5 and Airport Drive, northbound, southbound. Reduce travel time due to less congestion, and you're going to provide greater operational advantages in the future. Everything we're seeing for numbers, you're not going to put that interchange at capacity. All disadvantages, high costs, long construction time, looking at that 10-year time horizon. There will be right-of-way impacts. We'll have to acquire right-of-way permanent. Potential impacts to the airport airspace. impacts to the water booster station. That is a given. And one thing I do want to note on the booster station, that's about $8 million in itself. And we can't really reuse it because we have to rebuild a booster station to feed the Grand Forks Air Force Base before we can touch the existing one. And then impacts to overhead utilities, impacts to legal drain, potential for a lift station, and RPZ encroachment. So next steps, we are working through the decision document right now. Once we have that decision document in hand, that really guides us to which alternative we want to move forward with. We'll complete the CADX document. Once we get submittal of the CADX, then we can potentially look into funding in that final design. Other pieces to keep in mind, airport clearance. We've been working with FAA just to keep them in the loop of everything in the airport, and then utility coordination. So with that, I'll turn it over to David.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Faulkner. As this portion of this project is located within city limits, the DOT is interested in learning what the city's preferred alternative is. Since this project is within the city limits itself, the project is located at the intersection of County Road 5, which is county jurisdiction. They own and maintain that, as well as Airport Road, which is owned and maintained by the Airport Authority. We've received feedback from both entities, and their preferred alternative is the 2x1 roundabout alternative. Staff's recommendation is to concur with the jurisdictions that are most impacted by this intersection. And with that, I'd like to invite Commissioner Bierke. If he's got any additional insights he would like to add from the County Commission.
Thank you. Greetings, Vice President Weigel. The rest of you, thank you for the time. In a little bit, I'm going to be getting into some engineering talk, so I'm hoping all the engineers in the room take out your mechanical pencils and click along. You'll be excited about that engineering talk. This issue is not an emotional response to the most recent tragedy at that intersection. This traffic light has been a problem for decades. The first side note, the first time I drove through the intersection was in October of 1976. So I've driven it through for a while. It used to be one lane in each direction, just stop signs, no traffic light. And then Mr. Veen and Prime, when the traffic light was put in, and we've had problems since the light got in. There's been multiple looks at this issue. The last one, big one, was in 2014. And we are doing, unfortunately, what the government does too much. We are continuing to kick the can down the road. It's time to fix the problem. We know we have a problem there, and so we need to fix it. This intersection, they group intersections into groups. This intersection and the group it's in statewide every year is one of the worst intersections in the state for accidents. If this was located in the city limits of Grand Forks, this intersection would have been fixed a long time ago. You would not have tolerated it. And so this intersection it's bad. It's been bad for a long time. Our core mission is public safety. That's what we're here for. He mentioned the county and the airport, they support this. I also want to thank the mayor for supporting the project. The next thing I want to talk about is the engineering. The city of Grand Forks has resolved safety issues at intersections for years. And when I mean years, I mean past, present, and in the future through the word engineering. If you look at your tip, or when you get to your budget, you look at your 6-year CIP, you have multiple projects in the next 5 years where you're going to address intersection issues through engineering. You are not going to reduce the speed limit on the road up to the intersection to solve the problem. You're going to engineer your way out of it. Some examples. Number one, if you remember on 32nd, you now have traffic lights that adjust when you stop there to your turn right on reds. And they will not let you in at certain times when normally they used to because the traffic coming. You have lengthened turn lanes. You have added turn lanes. You have realigned turn lanes to improve visibility. In other words, you have engineered the safety. That's the way to solve the problem. And what the roundabout, I'll get to in a minute, is engineering. I also want to emphasize the report you have is 23 pages. The last one I read was 167. So they go into much more detail. 30% of the drivers who drive through the intersection are speeding. 1 out of every 3 is a speeder. And you know what speeders do? They speed. So if the speed limit's 55 and they're driving 65 to 70 and we drop the speed limit to 40, they're probably just going to drive 55. They're going to continue to speed. That's what they do. That's why they're speeders. So reducing the speed limit is not going to be the solution. to fixing this problem. Why we support the roundabout? The federal, North Dakota, Minnesota, and multiple other states, we've got documents on the roundabouts. A lot of reports. They all say basically the same thing. The percentages might vary a little bit, but three things are going to happen with the roundabout. The traffic will slow down. You are not going to take a roundabout at 70. Well, you'll do it once, and that'll be the last time you do it. So the projected speed limit for this is 30 miles an hour when they hit the roundabout. For those who say it'll slow down traffic, well, I thought that was what you people wanted from the side who don't want the roundabout. You say you want traffic to be slowed. Well, this is the answer, an engineering answer. We'll slow it down. Also, I would remind everyone that now when you go through, you got people that are doing 65 that are going through, or they're having to stop. This will be a consistent flow rate. They won't have to stop, but they won't be at the high speed. So the traffic should maintain actually a better flow because they're not having to stop. Approximately 35% is the average, and I lowballed it. What I would call fender benders, more minor accidents, are reduced by approximately a third. Some are higher in some areas. And significant accidents, which would be injuries and/or deaths, at least 70% reduction. Some of the roundabouts that have been built and have been around for years have not recorded a death since the roundabout went in. Now, once again, that does not mean tomorrow, if the roundabout was magically there and a semi just decided to plow into a tour bus and killed 15 people, that the issue was the engineering. No, it's just, we can't guarantee things in life. So we just do the best we can through the engineering. So we'll slow traffic, we'll reduce accidents, we'll reduce major accidents. A key part about roundabout is it's 4 years and 12 million. I think if we put the pressure on, I don't know why it couldn't be done in 2 or 3 years for less than 10 million. A lot of the studies are already done. We're not going to worry about the cattails and the long-eared bats. We're ready to go. Let's get this thing done. I personally believe this year, it's a roundabout. I know it's a circle. I personally believe by this year, at the end of the year, we could have it designed and put the bids out and build it in 2027. That's just me. In the world I live in. I also wanted to comment, just a general comment was, two things. There are, throughout the upper Midwest, if you drive, there are roundabouts all over now. We are not looking at bringing something new, might be new here, but the roundabouts are on U.S. highways and roads all throughout the Midwest. So this is not new. And one of the comments I heard was, for example, what would we like to be driving into Blizzard? So this is what I like to call Terry's tip of the day. So if you're driving out in the county in a blizzard, I don't care if you're on a roundabout, a paved county road, a gravel road, or a minimum maintenance road, you can't see. Maybe the solution is you shouldn't have been there. The roundabout is not an issue in a blizzard. The issue is it's the blizzard. I also want to mention that once again, public safety is our what we're here for. We have 4 years and 12 million, which I hope we can do better, versus 10 plus years and 100 million. I don't call people. I didn't call any of you, right? I didn't call anybody. Didn't lobby. So if there are 4 people up there who want to interchange, the answer would be, if we're about public safety, is to delay your interchange at 47th Avenue South, take that money, shift it to this project, and have the interchange built by November 1st of 2030. If the interchange is the answer that this group wants. I want the roundabout. I think it solves the issue, and I think it does it much cheaper. But I want to bring that up. There is a way to get around and speed this up. If you knock 5 years off the project, you're going to knock off tens of millions of dollars. But that's up to you guys. It's your vote. In closing, no matter what, it's time to end this debate on this road. I am tired of listening to, frankly, what I'm hearing some people say is basically, good luck. I hope it's nobody I know get killed out there. That is not an answer for elected officials. We have to do something. And we especially the ones who've been around, we know that road, that intersection is horrible, and it needs to be fixed. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Where do we sign up for future Terry tips of the day?
Yeah.
Maybe
I got a lot of them.
Maybe Mr. Bernstrom can find out that texting service too. Mr. Friedholz, comments?
So, I 100% agree with everything you're saying. I have 115 employees that drive that road every day. I drive that road every day. My children drive that road every day. And I cannot go a week without someone saying, boy, I almost got T-boned in that intersection. You may not like roundabouts, but we're doing a solution for public safety. And I think that is what is utmost important, what we're doing here. So thank you for your comments. And I think you're spot on.
I appreciate it. Also, he mentioned that another thing about roundabouts is you almost totally eliminate T-bones, head-ons, and rear ends. What you do is if there's an accident, it's usually sides. And the worst accidents are T-bones, head-ons, and rear ends. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bierke. Mr. Veen, comments?
I'm sorry, I actually have questions for Mr.
I'm sorry.
Bierke.
President Sandy.
Yeah, Terry, since when does this become the city of Grand Forks problem? I don't understand why you want us to take a Grand Forks interchange and turn it into a county interchange.
Number one, the DOT wants your opinion. I really don't want your opinion, but the DOT told me that you have to prove
Sure.
it. So I have no say in the matter. Number two, I don't want your interchange money. I'm saying if the issue is public safety and you really care about it, then flip the interchange that's a want and turn it into an interchange that's a need. If 4 people up here want an interchange, if you don't want an interchange, then it's just a moot point.
You're turning the county's problem into the city of Grand Forks' problem. This is the county's issue. This has nothing to do with the city of Grand Forks' interchange.
The county has solved the problem. We want a roundabout. If you don't like the fact the DOT is asking for your opinion, I don't control the DOT. I wish I did, but I don't.
Okay, I'd like to know if you were in our position, what would you, because I know you, Terry, and I know how you operate. I'd really like an honest answer, what you would do if you were in our position.
Well, that's between you and the DOT. If you want to tell the DOT,
That's it, that you've answered my question.
yeah, so then vote to tell the DOT we don't want to give a position. That's up to you. I don't want to vote on all your tax giveaways. Quit bringing them to me. You do that, we won't talk about the interchange.
good.
We'll shake on that. I'm ready to vote no on all of them anyway. Any other questions? But I do want to emphasize that point. It's not the county asking you for this. The DOT is telling you you have to put your 2 cents in. I can't anything. It doesn't do with me. I have no control.
Thank you, Mr. Bierke and Mr. Sandy. Ms. Berg.
Mr. Bierke, you just mentioned the DOT wants our 2 cents. Is that what I just heard?
That's what the DOT says, yes.
Are we being asked to fund this as well?
You will pay, based on previous project, if it stays the same, if it's 12 million, is a 10% local share, you would pay, that'd be 1.2 million. You would pay 600,000, we pay 600,000. I would remind everyone up here, your airport is in the city limits. That's why you're gonna have to pay the local share. It's, once again, I'm not trying to come for your money. Your airport, the airport is in the city limits, not in the county. It is in the county, but it's not. So that's why it'd be the local share. Am I wrong, Mr. Phelan?
Well, I think there's a little more nuance. It is an airport authority road, so it would be a conversation. Just because I think what Mr. Bierke is talking about, the north side of the intersection is within the city. Obviously, the south side is within the county. It would be a discussion with the airport authority. Obviously, the airport authority gets mills from both the city and the county for one-time projects. And that's how they match runways. So I think it'd be a conversation about whether the county or the city county airport authority should fund that, or the city of Grand Forks. So that's yet to come. I think right now they're just asking you your opinion on the intersection improvement.
And if the city chooses to take the money you give the airport and pay for it, feel free. It's up to you. It's your money. Well, it's a taxpayer money. Then you are supervising it. So if that's what you want to do, knock yourself out. I won't lose any sleep over that.
President Sandy, another comment?
Thank you, Mr. Weigel. I appreciate that Mr. Bierke is obviously well-educated and has lots of facts on this matter. And I can't argue any of what he's saying because it's all true. I'm a little bit at a loss for the whole argument that we shouldn't lower the speed, but the goal is we're going to lower the speed by spending $10 million on a roundabout. I don't to me, that it's illogical to say our goal is to slow everyone down. We do know for a fact that speed is the major factor in accidents, and specifically in fatal accidents or injury accidents. We know that for a fact. We also know that, for example, the Walmart on the west side of town is 6 miles from that intersection. Yet the speed goes from past Walmart to, I think it's 40 and then to 55. If, for example, we kept the speed at 30 miles an hour for that 6 miles, it's gonna add 6 minutes of travel time, but we save $10 million. I know Mr. Bierke is one that really wants to save money at all costs. And so I find the arguments contradictory when the goal is to slow everyone down, yet the DOT and apparently the county is unwilling to raise their hand and say, let's just slow everybody down. I fully agree that we should do something. Somebody should do something. I'm not saying, what I disagree with is the city of Grand Forks being responsible, having any of this as part of our problem, because it's not. And if the DOT and the county want to move forward with it, they should move forward with it. And the city of Grand Forks doesn't have any, shouldn't, in my opinion, has no say in this game.
I just want,
That's my opinion.
I just want to quick, but then I just want to respond as far as the speed limit is. There's a difference of using engineering to mandating people to slow down as putting up a speed limit sign that they don't care about. And that's my issue is we can lower the speed limit to 40. They'll slow down, they'll go down to 55, but they're still going to speed. In the data that was presented, an amazing amount of people are speeding through the intersection at the end of the yellow and at the beginning of the red. That's all tracked in the lengthy report that's in there. So the issue is with me is that on the speeding is changing the number on the sign is not going to change their behavior. Forcing them to slow down for a roundabout through engineering will force them to change their behavior. And I would
Actually, thank you, Mr.
I will
Bierke.
yield my time.
What forces people to slow down and change their behavior is actual speed limit enforcement. And to the best of my knowledge, that road is the county's responsibility. Thank you, Mr. Weigel.
That's a highway. It's a US highway, just thought I'd mention that. So that'd be state
Fine,
troopers.
thank you. I personally don't see that the city of Grand Forks should take a position on this. I'm certainly not gonna stand in the way from the county or the DOT doing any project that they want to out there. I think that they should go nuts and get it all done. I don't think the city of Grand Forks is responsible for taking any ownership in a project that has nothing to do with us. Thank you.
Thank you, President Sandy. Mr. Faulkner?
Yeah, I guess I was just going to expand on the speed limit. It was brought up, towards the Walmart intersection versus Airport Drive. And it doesn't just kind of lay out, we did evaluate that when we did our study and trying to look at the whole corridor. And what you'll notice for driver behavior as they get closer to Grand Forks, they do start slowing down because they are getting in an urban environment. There's street lights, there's more lights. People are waking up and realizing they slow down. The nice thing about the roundabout, as Bierke is trying to discuss, is through design, we can actually get the cars to slow down a little bit more. It's not dependent on that speed limit because they'll go through a chicane, and that change in alignment actually forces the driver to awaken and slow down as they go through it. I just wanted to add to that. I don't know. I'm not trying to argue or anything. There is a big difference on driver behavior at the Walmart versus at this intersection.
Thank you. Mr. Bean, comments?
Yeah, if I could, I think safety is paramount. I don't care what decision or what intersection you put in, it's got to be the safest. I think it just has to be that way. I think the question is always going to be, how do you measure safety? And it's easier said than done. One of the things that I've looked at in the past is the number of conflict points you have in an intersection, and looking at the severity of the conflicts, probably the typical speeds, the crash severity. It's not as simple as one would think. I would think I'm seeing in trying to figure out which one of these intersections is the safest. And can you tell me in your experience which one? I mean, to begin with, I thought the shifted diamond interchange would be the safest, but I'm learning maybe not. Maybe the roundabout is actually safer, and I'm trying to figure that one out myself. I don't know which one to vote for.
Yeah, the safety piece is very difficult. There's a lot of variables in there, and it's really hard to quote unquote what is the safest. Through our modeling, we can confirm that each alternative will have less crash potential and less crash severity than what's existing. Everything was 30%, 40% reduction. Now the total reduction in crash potential, mitigating those opportunities to have an incident. Obviously the Diamond Interchange has the most reduction in crash potential, but I can't state for a fact it will be safer versus one or the other. It all comes to that potential of what happens out there. With the roundabout, the reason the safety is enhanced with that is the severity. So at a normal intersection like this, people are stopping, you're getting rear ends or T-bones. With a roundabout, you're going through there, you're going to get a side collision, and it'll be a much less severe accident. So there'll be more fender benders, but less fatal injuries to folks. Is that kind of answering with not answering? Because I can't give you a fact what's safest out of them, but I will say that they're all safer than what's existing.
Yeah, at least what I had, with the 2-lane roundabout, they looked at the number of conflict points for all merging and diverging traffic, and you've got, at least mine says 16. And compared to what's there now, which I'm not sure of, I didn't do all the engineering data, but I mean, within the assessment you've made, you've looked at a lot of these different points to come up with what I would think is the most sound option for us that it has the best safety.
Yeah, correct. So it'd be 32 at a normal intersection. The single lane would be 8 conflict points, and then the 2x1 is 16. The reason you have more conflict on the 2x1 is because you have the 2 lanes going, and you could theoretically weave in between those lanes. For the analysis, what we did here, we actually flew drones out at the intersection and took data during peak hours in the morning and afternoon. Traditional methods, you go out there and you count traffic and say, based on this, we assume this. We actually flew out there and were able to utilize software and modeling to determine drivers' behavior. So not just based on math from the HCM, it's more of how are people driving at this intersection, and built that into the model. And that's where that crash potential and severity shows, once we run the simulations, that all alternatives have less crash potential than existing. The interchange will have the least crash potential because folks are able to continue eastbound, westbound on US 2 and get off on the ramps. But you're still seeing 30% reductions on the roundabout for crash potential and severity compared to a normal intersection.
So do I understand what you said is the interchange has the least, is the safest?
I'd say the least crash potential because you're still driving the nuance there and going into the safety and variables. With the roundabout, you're really driving the vehicles down to a 30 mile per hour speed limit through the area. So if something happens, it's a lot more forgiving. Interchange, you're still driving that 55 to 70. Say you go off the road and you hit the pier in the middle, that changes the dynamic, right? But as far as crash potential, I can vouch for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just had a question. We've got Michael Johnson on here from the NDDOT, and I know I think Ed Pavlish is here too. Do you need a full concurrence from the city of Grand Forks, or can we just defer to the decision that's made by the county and the airport authority? Just looking at, we've got a $70 million project with the DOT for the 47th Avenue interchange, which has been brought up tonight. We certainly don't want to see that slowing down. We also have a $90 million project with the DOT for the 42nd Street and Demers underpass. So I'm wondering if that's an option or if you need a concurrence or non-concurrence or a selection here. So I don't know if that's a question if Mr. Johnson can answer that, or I don't know if Ed wants to come up here or not, but.
Mr. Johnson?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can.
All right. Thank you. So the reason that we've looked at this intersection and wanted to provide the city an opportunity to provide a recommendation on an alternative is this an intersection, there's a lot of conversation about city limits. When we interact with the cities, like Grand Forks, we have 2 other boundaries that we kind of look at, and one of those is the urban limits. And the urban limits is somewhat similar to the city limits, but it does encompass a little bit larger area. And what that urban limit does is it defines the limits of within the confines of the city of Grand Forks and the surrounding area, where our urban program that the DOT provides to the cities for roadway construction projects, our federal aid program that is part of the urban program. And that's both for construction projects on the state system and construction projects on city local roads that qualify for federal funds, like a Columbia Road, for example. So because it was in that boundary, and normally if this project were to have just come up for general maintenance activities and we needed to do some mainline repairs to Highway 2, not necessarily anything dealing with the history of the intersection project, that project would come through our normal channels and come through the urban program for its funding, and we would work very closely with the city. So we wanted to provide the city the opportunity to provide a recommendation. What recommendation you provide, whether that's your own or a concurrence of what the county has already done, I think that's really up to your body and what you decide. We just wanted to give the city the opportunity to provide a recommendation because of that urban limit definition.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Comments from the committee? Ms. Berg.
There's only a few main points of entry into Grand Forks, and coming in from the west on Highway 2 is one of them. It's like a gateway into the city, and I think we need to be in support of doing something, because doing nothing is unacceptable, as Mr. Bierke has previously said. And so with that, I would move approval.
We have a motion from Ms. Berg, a second from Mr. Friedolfs. Further comments, Mr. Sandy?
Thank you, Mr. Weigel. I for one, just to the mayor's point, we're good partners with the DOT, and I have complete confidence in the decision-making process that our county and the North Dakota DOT make. I don't think that our not supporting the roundabout would jeopardize funding for our interchange or for our underpass, because I don't think that's the way the North Dakota DOT operates. I think they're good partners with the city of Grand Forks. I, for one, think that there are all sorts of, again, these are my opinions. I think there are all sorts of things that we can do to improve traffic safety at that intersection, with the goal of having it be the most safe as possible, which, to Mr. Veen's point, one day is an interchange. I know Mr. Bierke and the county are desperate to do something. I think doing something just to do something isn't the right approach. I think we should plan to do the right thing. I think we should slow the speed down, make it 10 miles an hour. So to Mr. Bierke's point, they'll go 18 miles an hour, make it 10, and then let's spend 10 years, save up $100 million and get it done the right way. Just my opinion. I'm gonna vote no on this motion, and I think the city of Grand Forks should take no position. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, President Sandy. Further comments, Mr. Veen?
Just one quick question. What I think I heard from you guys is that the 2-lane roundabout has the lowest crash potential and the lowest crash severity.
So the lowest crash potential and severity actually lies with the single lane, but they're really close, like right there between the two. We're talking decimals between the two.
Thank you for the questions, Mr. Veen. Further comments by anybody? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-1. Mr. Sandy dissents.
5-1.
5-1. Sorry, can't count. That's well, I won't say it. Anyways, moving on to 3.9, Alter Sports Complex, ASC Project Phase 1 and 2 updates and ASC Phase 2 approvals. Mr. Phelan.
Council Vice President Weigel and members of the committee whole. We got some good news that we are looking forward to sharing with you. I just want to go over the staff recommended action. Number one is to give you an update on not only on phase 1 construction, but also on phase 2. So we're going to give you an update on that. There are 3 specific recommendations that we have to move forward to the city council. One is to move forward as part of phase 2 to continue to do design development, construction documents, and bidding. And so that's, we'd move forward with JLG. That's in the amount of $743,212.80. The second recommendation is to move forward with a tournament development specialist in partnership with Visit Greater Grand Forks and the Grand Forks Park District in support of the Alter Sports Complex. And currently, it would be split a third with including the city, and we estimate the cost between $20,000 and $30,000 annually. To do that, Miss Rig is here from Visit Greater Grand Forks, but that really is the overall trying to bring tournaments, economic impact, quality of life. That position would be housed in with Visit Greater Grand Forks, and would office out of Visit Greater Grand Forks and also out of the Alter Sports Complex. And then finally, we've been working with the Grand Forks Park District regarding the operations, and you'll see Mr. Hellier from the Grand Forks Park District will be here to go over a couple slides on what they're working on. They're working on two things for us. Number one, they're going to start in earnest working on naming rights for inside the facility. Obviously, it's the Alter Sports Complex that they'll have signage on the outside, but inside we have lots of naming opportunities inside that facility. So they're going to begin that work with sponsorship rights, naming rights inside the building, and they're going to use their Grand Forks Foundation to help us out with that. Number two is you've already approved an operating agreement between the City of Grand Forks and the Grand Forks Park District. We're asking as part of this, and Mr. Hellier will come up here, we're asking the fourth recommendation is to modify anything in our current agreement that would allow us, the City of Grand Forks, to pay the city utility fees for that facility. And right now they're estimated about $70,000. Number two, to allow some of those sponsorship dollars for inside the building, to allow, right now the agreement says those shall be provided to the City of Grand Forks and they should be used for capital. We're asking that we can also use them for operations to try to minimize the funding gap, the cost gap that Mr. Hellier. So those are the what we're asking for you for those four items. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Adam Davidson and Oliver Finneman. Adam is from JLG, and then Oliver Finneman, you've seen them both, and he's with McGough, and they're going to go over the progress on the project and some of the particulars on phase 1 and 2.
Good evening, Council. So I think we're going to start with a phase 1 update. So we have a drone video here from McGough Construction and Construction Engineers. I'm quickly going to turn over to the McGough team here to give us an update on phase 1. They're the ones out there all day in the cold here. So I'm going to turn it over here to Brian. Give us a little update here on phase 1 and what you're seeing here in the voting.
Yep. So I'll take in. Good evening, committee members and Vice President Wago. I'm Brian Lambrick, Senior Project Manager with McGough Construction. So I oversee the day-to-day operations of the Alter Sports Complex project here. What you see in front of us is a drone video that we took last week on Monday. Really the course of last summer and this fall was we were really focusing on all of our underground activities, foundations, site utilities, getting the pool slab down, all the underground plumbing for the pool. All of that's in place currently and buried now. And really, if you've driven on 42nd in the last couple of weeks, you'll notice that all the structures are really coming up and out of the ground. So what you'll see in front of us right here, that silver box right in the front of the screen here, that's the pre-engineered metal building for the pickleball courts. That structure is complete. Really now it just needs to get enclosed and wrapped up. What you can kind of see here is just the start of the end wall of the turf. So that angled beam across the screen, that's the end wall for the actual turf pre-engineered metal building. And then behind that, you can see the concrete panels. Those are the precast panels for the natatorium space. Again, here's another view of that natatorium space. What you don't see where that orange lift is sitting right now, buried underneath that, there's about 5 feet of sand and gravel covering all the pool base slab and plumbing underground, things like that. So as of Wednesday last week, all that precast is erected. So you can kind of see it wasn't finished as of Monday, but now that work is complete. So really, rest of this winter is just gonna be focused on getting all of our structures up. From there, we'll kind of roll into our enclosures, getting the building weather tight this spring and summer. And then really kind of that last, year or so of the project is just gonna be doing the finishes and fit out inside the building. So ultimately, construction is going very, very well. We're on schedule, still tracking for a September completion date of 2027. And then we're still on budget. We're actually slightly under budget, which we'll talk about when we get into some of the phase 2 numbers here. So any questions on current construction status?
No questions.
Awesome.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. Well, when we switch gears here to phase 2, the bulk of our presentation tonight will be on phase 2 and giving that update. So let me switch gears to that presentation. So where I will start today is going to be on schedule. So this is the project schedule for phase 2. I'll call your attention to the top blue row there, schematic design and programming. This is the phase that we're just completing and what we've been doing over the last 16 weeks. So we've had a couple of really, I think, in-depth stakeholder meetings with the Park District and some of the community organizations out there for basketball, volleyball, wrestling, etc. Really, as we work towards refining the idea, refining the design concept into a plan, a program, and a budget to move forward, which is why we're here today to present that to you all. The next steps that we would have here, as Mr. Phelan mentioned, are move into the next phases that we're requesting to do more refinement and to get more detail and to really work towards that market and budget numbers. And so design development, construction documents, and 2 bid packages would occur, which is a very similar process to what we did for phase 1. The idea is to do the expedited project delivery. I'll show that here in just a couple of slides to kind of remind you all what that is. But the intent is to overlap our phases, get to the market soon, really have some of that time savings so we get out there, especially when we have phase 1 already under construction, the construction team already out there. There's a lot of savings we can have as a project to get this out to the market and under construction at the same time that phase 1 is out there. So that would be our goal today, is to walk through that with you all here and what that looks like. The next time we would be here would be back in June. So if everything goes as to plan, we would go into design development, construction documents, put out that first bid package, or what we call GMP package 3. So it's the third one for the whole project. That would be put out in April. We would come back in June of this year to present those results to you all and to ask permission to move forward into the next phase, which would be the last bidding package. So the next time after that, the third time would be in October. So we would look to put out the 4th and final bid package in August of this year, come back in October, present that to you, and really be on our way. Again, if all goes to plan, construction could start as really early as late June, early July of this year, with the anticipated completion to be around that Q2 of 2028. With probably a potential opening of early Q3 of 2028, depending on how all things go. So you can see there we're about at 6 months behind phase 1 at the current point, but that really is close enough to have a lot of synergy with that as we begin both projects under construction. I'm going to transition over to budget, and so I'm going to call up here Oliver Finman to talk about the budget. Again, some good news here on where we stand today, and we'll give you a rundown of the budget numbers for the whole project.
All right. Well, this document should look familiar, as this was the same document that we used for phase 1. So what has transpired since September is the design has progressed, and we have had a chance to get a lot smarter about what the project will cost. So we're going to give you an update on the kind of overall project and where that compares to the budget based off of our updated estimate. So the far left or far right-hand side would be where the numbers were at in September. And then that column, January 26 schematic design, that's where we're at today. So I'll just walk down through each line and give a brief explanation. So the first line, the phase 1 construction GMP, that is the guaranteed maximum price that is in place for the project. As you can see, there's been a slight change since September, but we are still carrying in that number about $1.6 million of construction contingency. Those are dollars that are set aside for unknown issues to come up during construction. So we're still holding on to a fair amount of construction contingency. Some of the savings that Brian had alluded to earlier. We found about $600,000 in savings inside of that GMP from favorable buyout of the pool and the walking surfacing. So that was an item that we weren't aware of back in September. And then we're also now recognizing that there's about $1.5 million of funding from UND for the deep dive well that would be applied to this project budget. We've got our updated numbers for phase 2 based off of the schematic design. So think of it from where we were at in September. It was a one-page drawing, kind of a napkin sketch of what the building was going to look like. It's progressed now to where we know exactly the footprint of it, how high all the exterior walls are, which ones are precast, which ones are drywall, which ones are block and brick. So we've been able to, one, get a lot smarter about what the building's made of. And also we've had a chance to talk with a lot of the contractors that are working on the project for help with pricing on that as well. So we've got a lot better informed number than we did last September. So you can see the project right now is, we're estimating it at $20,992,000, which is up a little less than $1.5 million from where we were at in September. Couple of the driving factors there are, one, we have seen steel pricing increase from September till now. It's kind of on an upward trend. We're a lot smarter about the site work and how much that's going to cost. So in particular, the earthwork, how much it's going to cost to dig out of the ground, and then pricing on some of the other elements of the building, like precast, have also increased a little bit. So those are the major components that are driving the difference in cost from last September to today. Design fees and testing for both phase 1 and phase 2 are there. Those are static. Those haven't changed since September. So the running total of the project right now, if you were to add everything up, is $108,946,000 for the building. If you were to include phase 2, your budget is $110 million, which is made up of the city funding plus the donations, which would leave you with a positive balance of a little over $1 million that can be used towards owner contingency, et cetera. There are a couple things, clarifiers in here that should be noted. One, as a reminder, this does not include the offsite infrastructure, so parking lots, utilities, et cetera. Those are tracked separately, which we'll go over in just a minute. In the estimate for phase 2, we currently have a 3% construction contingency and a 2% design contingency. There again, those contingencies are there to help get us to the finish line, knowing that there's still design that needs to be completed, but there's kind of to mitigate the things that could pop up between now and the design completing. Pricing's based off of bidding, this spring and summer, and then we don't have any owner contingency included in the $108 million. So I'm going to move on to the site infrastructure cost update. So similar document. The last time you would have seen this one would have been back in April of last year, breaking down the offsite infrastructure into their applicable cost categories. So I think big picture, where we're at today, the offsite infrastructure costs have gone up, but that all of those costs that are in that GMP now are inclusive of the changes to the offsite infrastructure to support phase 2. So, pretty much all of those costs have been captured, and what you can see is that we're still under the $10.6 million budget that was established for the project. So that is the update on where the costs are at.
Mr. Bean.
On your construction cost estimate, have that estimate that you noted in there been escalated to the bid date then?
It has been, yes.
So not at today's dollars, but what you anticipate coming up?
Correct.
Thank you.
Further questions, or should they continue? Go ahead.
All right. I think I'll hand it back to Mr. Davidson.
I know you guys want to get out of here, so we'll try and go through the next slides here expeditiously. Real quick here, I just want to touch on the expedited project delivery method. So this is really important to understand. Again, the same process that we did back in phase one, that we're really trying to consolidate the design phases, get to the market soon, have those time savings there. And so asking today to move into design development, construction documents, bid documents. And the reason why, and Mr. Vien, you're leading to that too, a little bit of escalation, is we already have a team out there under construction. We want to get out there. We really want to realize those project savings that we can have by getting out there sooner than later. So just a recap of why we're asking to do this process and to do it that way. You can see here with the GMP3, GMP4, some of those reduced times helps to reduce savings and being out there. So very important to understand. But again, the same process that we did last year in phase one. In addition, just to let you know what is in GMP3 and GMP4. So again, GMP stands for Guarantee Maximum Price. These are final drawings and specifications for bidding purposes. And so the first one, GMP3, that we would ask of you here today, that it would go out in April, would come back to you guys here in June, would cover about 55% of the scope of phase two. That would encompass all of the building foundations, all the building structure, and the building enclosure. Again, almost identical to what we did back in phase one. When we come back again, as long as things go to plan in August and then October, that's going to be for everything else really in the fit up of the building. So all your mechanical, your electrical, and a lot of your interiors, the gym flooring, etc. So a little bit of the fun stuff here. We brought a few slides from the schematic design package that we delivered to the city and to the park district. And so we're not going to go over the whole package, but just a few choice here to give you an update on the design and where things lie. Very similar to what you saw with the concept plan back in last fall with a little more detail to it. But we'll cover the site here real quick first. So again, to kind of get you oriented, phase one up in green. So north is up. 42nd Street to the right, Interstate to the left there. Phase two is in the southwest corner of the project for the Ultra Sports. Kind of middle of the site overall, but in the southwest corner of the Ultra Sports complex. The main court entry, kind of the day-to-day entry would see for phase one would occur in the southeast corner, that number one you see down there, which really is in kind of right in the middle of all the parking that we have. If you recall, parking accommodations and design were redone in phase one to accommodate phase two, and you're seeing that reflected here. So with our east parking, south parking, and west parking, really having that main entrance right at the southeast corner makes a lot of sense for pedestrians and traffic. The other important piece of this, besides the courts, is the athletic training, the sports training. And so number two designates a dedicated entry point for sports training. All the athletic development programs the park district will be putting on to have that dedicated entry is something that's really important to really drive the program, which ultimately drives revenue for the project. And so they would have a dedicated entry for those early mornings after hours so that you wouldn't have to utilize the courts and come in through the building. They would have that to be isolated for them to use that efficiently. Three is all the parking. One thing about the parking to note is that the parking next to Hugo's Raceway, that is some of the parking that we're looking, McGuff is trying to get done by spring of next year. Will get done by spring of next year, I should say. Anticipation so that it's up and running, as long as the stormwater detention as well to support Hugo's Raceway and some of those things that are going on as construction continues. So a lot of that on the western part will be complete by that time, which is pretty important. I would say loading is really in the same spot that we have. So item number 4 is showing how the load-in would happen. It's the same spot that we have now, but we really moved load-in and the primary load-in from phase 1 to phase 2, really in the same location. I won't spend much time on that. Vehicle drop-off, also important. So with the redesign of the parking over on the east, we were able to redesign the drop-off. I think it's a little more efficient. It's elongated, serves both phase 1, which happens at the north, but also phase 2, which happens along the west side there. And in addition, we added some vehicle drop-off for the sports training over there on the north-south axis. You can see that number 5 on the west side of the site. We'll jump right into the floor plan. So we are just a little bit over 62,000 square feet, primarily on one level. We do have an elevated level for the mechanical mezzanine and on the mechanical equipment. It's about 3,000 square feet. So pretty small, but majority is going to be on the main level and really 4 main categories. We have the gymnasium, which you can see there in brown. We have the sports training at the north of the green, storage, receiving, load in the middle, and all of our support spaces that we have there. I'm going to go through in detail, moving north to south on some of the spaces here, try and hit the highlights this one. The main thing about the sports training was to maximize the amount of open floor gym space that we have adjacent to the turf. I think one of the synergies and the critical piece for sports training to be successful is to have that direct access to the turf area, where we have the sprint track and the sprint turf and the turf area already part of phase one. So the location was really driven by that. You can see as direct access to the exterior on the west, helping support and really promote and grow their programs with that direct access, and maximizing at about 5,700 square feet the open floor athletic training space. They really will have some of their own support spaces within there. So they'll have some admin spaces, they'll have their own restrooms, they'll have kind of a trainer exam room located in there as well, an analysis room to help with program and, you know, bringing people in, their own storage and access to storage. So really kind of a self-supporting area within the facility. In the middle of that long bar, that's really going to be the primary gymnasium stores, maintenance, receiving. Again, it's something that we relocated over from phase one. And what's important to understand about that is that helped free up additional storage now over by the turf. So some of those areas where we have the maintenance loading can go over to the new phase one portion of it. And we just opened up more storage for the turf area. So it did help with some synergy on that front. The courts. So the courts are going to be, if you recall, 4 high school size courts. They will be divisible into cross courts by 8. So 8 high school volleyball and 8 middle school. These are modified middle school. So they're 50 by 64, but nonetheless middle school size. Also a size to accommodate 768 spectators, depending on the configuration for the courts. It'll be the 4 high school courts. It'll be the cross courts for volleyball and for middle school. Wrestling would have a little bit of their own configuration with that, depending on the number of mats. You can see here we are showing the mats in a large space, so that would work out. But 768 is that number we arrived to that really works for a lot of things with the facility. And then all the support spaces on the east side. So just like the other areas of phase one, turf and aquatics, we have its own multi-purpose room. So this is divisible by 2. So it's a larger multi-purpose room, can be divided into smaller multi-purpose rooms. Again, for community needs, for hospitality during tournaments and for events. And it's just another configuration for those multi-purpose spaces, just like in phase one, that would help support the courts. There will be a small concessions and lounge area that is really a satellite to the main concessions over in phase one. So we're not duplicating any of those services. It's just going to be a smaller satellite. So anything that happens in concessions in phase one would be carted over or brought over here to help support those on certain tournament days. Of course, we have restrooms. We'll have the officials and coaches room, just like we do in phase one, which is really important for tournaments to have those dedicated officials and coaching areas that they can go to. So we have one in phase one. We'll have another one now with phase two with this one. And then we have some not circulation, but control desk and administration areas along with that too as well. Again, that corner there is the southeast. That really is considered the main entrance to phase two. Just a couple of quick snapshots of phase two and phase one together. Up here on the top one is going to be the view from 42nd as you're looking northwest in this case. Hopefully we've been successful in really integrating phase two with phase one. So it does look like one intentional project, not 2 projects. You can see the bottom one here is a close-up of the main entrance to the courts. And just to go back up to the north there a little bit, or the top image, excuse me, is with the new entrance to the courts, we didn't want to try and take away from the main entrance. So it's really important that we have those different scales of entry points that we use facility. Wayfinding with large facilities is very important. And so we want to make sure that the architecture responds to the wayfinding in a way that helps support that. But it does need to speak entrance as you're using the courts, whether it be a day-to-day or for tournament. You have to know that. I just want to point out that little subtlety there. But all in all, we feel very, very confident and very excited about how everything is integrating together and really supporting one cohesive design. This here is just a quick rendering of the courts on the inside. You may recognize the pattern of windows over there on the west side, very similar to what we have over pickleball, very similar to what we have at the turf and also at the natatorium. So this would be the glazing we're using, which isn't clear glass, but it's daylight diffusing glass. So again, we're not getting that glare from the west on the courts. We're getting just that really great diffused natural lighting. And just a last quick image here is going to be, this is the multi-purpose rooms in the concourse. So this is an in-process rendering, so not as polished as usual. But to give you an idea of what the multi-purpose area looks like, the difference with these ones and the 2 in phase one, we have these operable glass doors here to really help with certain hospitality events, to really open this up and really make this a truly multi-purpose venue. So with that, that completes the phase 2 architectural update. I think the next is transition over to the Park District. Or are we doing finance and marine?
Marie, why don't you go?
All right, thank you. Just want to give a little review and an update on the financing. As you remember, this is coming from a city sales tax. We went to a vote of the people back in November 2023 to not only expand the use or to cover the ongoing capital and current debt service on the Alair Center, but to expand the use for the funding of this facility and ongoing capital and removing that sunset. Received very, very good support behind this with 66% approval on that 3/4 cent sales tax. So that's your funding source for this. We put the numbers together, came up with a $110 million budget that we've had going through this. And I just want to provide an update on that. That included the $100 million financing or borrowing and $10 million cash on that. So just to give an update on where we're at with that. As a reminder, we went out and did the temporary financing through Wells Fargo. Very, very good interest rate on this temp financing at 3.54%. That takes us through December of 2027 when we'll look to issue a permanent bond for the ongoing payments for this facility. We took a look. We wanted to adjust sales tax. We brought that down to be a little more conservative than what we had projected sales tax. At the same time, interest rates are in our favor. Overall, we're still sitting really good, really solid on the $100 million financing piece of this. We had previously, you see a estimate by 2028 sales tax estimate for this 3/4 cent sales tax at 11.7. Before we had that at 12 million. So we readjusted that a little bit in our projections going forward, but we're still solid on that $100 million borrowing capacity. So in a nutshell, approximately a third of the sales tax collections gets allocated to the Alair Center and their ongoing capital needs, and the other 2/3 goes toward this facility. We estimate that annual debt payment of right around $6.4 million. That leaves $1.5 million available for ongoing capital needs reserves as we initially start to already think of the future with this facility and start setting funds aside. We would project that to grow. Very thankful for our Altru naming rights. That brings in $10 million, as well as donations that we've received to date from the Freisted family of $500,000 and that Simplot donation of $75,000. That leaves the cash portion of the project of that $10 million that we had set aside. That's coming just from the sales tax that's built up in the account, as well as those naming rights and donations to date that we have collected. All in all, though, $18 million for cash reserves. How that splits out is $9 million for construction based on the revised estimates that you just saw. We have increased. We previously had FF&E set aside of $1.2 million. We've increased that set aside for $2 million to include a phase 2. We'll get better numbers on that, but for now we wanted to set that aside. $6 million is set aside for paying down the existing Alair Center debt and just sustaining ongoing capital needs to make sure we have plenty of reserve set aside in there, leaving $1 million remaining. Basically, it's your $1 million savings on that project from $110 to $109 million. And then just as a recap, talked about this before, this is separate from the $110 million budget, but we have the funds set aside for those infrastructure costs. Those are lower than original estimates, but now do include the phase 2 as part of that. And still an estimate on here is 17th Avenue South, but we're good on those numbers on all other related infrastructure. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hillier.
Thank you, Ms. Storstad.
Good evening, City Council.
here to talk about the fundraising and then the operation and projections we've been working on since last time I was here. I think on the fundraising side, we're gonna utilize our experience that we've had with Choice Health and Fitness and with Icon Sports Center and try and use that for the All True Sports Complex. I think with All True Sports Complex, there's definitely lots of opportunities out there for naming to kind of follow what All True did, what the Freisted family did, and what Simplot did. So I think there's definitely some opportunities to have with lots of naming that's out there. With that, there's also going to be some challenges with that process. So with the numbers that you saw with the construction budget being so healthy, with the sales tax funding mechanism that's in place, I think there's going to be some challenges there. But with that being said, again, lots of good naming opportunities that are out there to have. So the slide kind of shows, the donations will be going to the City of Grand Forks through that process. As Mr. Freeland referenced earlier tonight, the funds raised could be used towards the building cost or they could be put towards the operations. As far as the fundraising itself, the Parks District staff would get involved and start working on that process. But we'll also be working with the city staff, right? We want to make sure that we're working with the naming opportunities, the price points, some of those items. So we'll be working with city staff to make sure we got some good informations and we're aligned on that together, kind of moving forward through our campaign information and other items. As far as how the donors be recognized, again, kind of using the model that we've had at Choice and at Icon Sports Center. So if you've been in those facilities, we've got donor walls for the people that want to donate $1,000, but we also have locker rooms named, different areas that are named specifically. So here we'll have the court, turf, pool, other areas we could do some naming with. Working on the size, placement, that all depends on the significance of the donor gift, and again, kind of utilizing what we've done at Choice and an Icon. Letter intent, we'll work with the donors on that to make sure that everyone's on the same page and there's no misunderstandings. What the gift payment options are, what the term of that naming rights would be, what kind of recognition that they would get. So we'll work on those processes as well. So when do we begin? We're working on that right now. We're working on those naming opportunities, those campaign materials, and that is in place. So getting those started, and again, connecting with city staff, making sure that we're on the same page and we're moving forward together here. On the operations side, we got the projections that we've been working on hard on for a while. Again, for projections, there's no crystal ball for these numbers. I mean, these are our best estimates, but with that being said, we've been taking significant time put into this to come up with the best estimate we possibly can. Our staff has put together over 20 work sessions kind of working through these numbers. We hired an outside consultant for national and industry standards to try to work with. Rental rates, we've looked at regional comparisons from around the state. Expense comparisons, we've reached out to Fargo Park Sports Center to look at some of their numbers, Bismarck Aquatic Center for what their numbers are. Obviously, Choice Health Fitness and Icon. So the numbers you're looking at, I think, what we tried to do is look at realistic numbers. We didn't want to be super conservative and we didn't want to be super aggressive thinking either way. So we tried to use realistic numbers as we kind of work through this. For the total revenue, you can see is for phase 1, phase 2 is just shy of $2 million. Total expenses would be right about that $2.6 million is what we're projecting. For staffing, we've hired a general manager. So Lisa Rolfstad's in attendance tonight. She's going to be the general manager of All True Sports Complex. And then we're projecting having 7 full-time staff for phase 1, and if phase 2 moves forward. So we'll look at hire 6 other staff employees here over the next, one in 2026, and the rest would be hired in 2027. The operations, the tournament position that was referenced, that is included in our numbers and our phase 1 numbers that we have listed. So again, total net cost, we've got $563,000 is what we're estimating. The Park District is, our board is what they've been talking about is $500,000. So that's what their desired goal is, to get around that number. So the support of the city council, much appreciated to try and keep us closer to that number. Our total budget for the Park District is about $21 million. So you can see $2.6 million is, it's a significant portion of what we kind of got going. So their thoughts are, we're super excited about this project. This is what the Park District does, is be involved in these types of projects, but it is a big undertaking for the Park District at the same time. So we don't want it to affect too much of our other projects that we have going. So they're trying to balance that out, but at the same time, this is what we do. We work on these types of projects. This is in our wheelhouse. For 2026, we do have $380,000 already budgeted for All True Sports Complex. So hiring that general manager, hiring that next assistant general manager position, some of the training that needs to come in, some of the supplies, some of those items. So we already have $380,000 kind of built into our budget. And with that, I guess, going back to the utilities, the gas and electricity, you can see there, that's almost $680,000. And that's what our best estimate is by looking at some other comparables. We feel like that's a good solid number. But with that, not sure what utility rates are going to be going forward and what exactly that expense could be. So if that's something that we could circle back with the city at a future date to see if there's some options there to try and get us around that $500,000, that's what our board is hoping for. So, but that can be further discussed in the future. So I think that was like that, unless there's any questions for me on the operations or fundraising.
Thank you, Mr. Hillier. Comments from the committee, Mr. Friedels?
Just real quick, I noticed when we were down at the city to the south here and we went and visited their sports, they took each lane of the pool had like an you could pay for an advertising space. Is this kind of the same? Is this including like people paying for advertising, someone putting something on a billboard? I don't know, inside the facility.
Good question. So yeah, I think you get into two different kind of categories. You get into naming opportunities and you get into sponsorships, advertising. So advertising would be your short-term things where, they're advertising for a weekend or, for a year or something like that. The naming opportunities would be long-term, 20 years, 30 years, those types of situations. So depending on what that is, I think the sponsorships, some of those things we're going to wait till later to tackle, but we're going to start with the naming opportunities for those long-term significant investments, I guess. So, but yeah, I think everything's going to be on the table. Yep, is on that front.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Friedels.
Yeah,
Mayor,
just
comment?
want to have one comment on that. So right now, all the All True money, the Jim Frystead family money that was donated in the Simpot would all stay for the capital. So the thought was, going towards, going further in the future as they look at naming rights for the turf, the pool, the courts, the pickleball. I know Mr. Gosted wants a doorknob in his name. So for all those things, that could add to the revenue number. So we think if the Park District's going to take that on, if that can help out with their operations, just knowing we're in a really good spot in the capital. So if that's a way to get their operations numbers down, knowing that some of them will be short term, but probably the naming rights might be 10, 20 years, that'd be a continuing thing where you'd be paying, every year for that. So that's not baked into these numbers. I know Jill Nelson with the Park District and his team's going to work on what some of the potentials are there, but that would all add to the revenue number. So it could be in a lot better shape. That's where, as we talk about gas utility, other types of things, it'd be nice to kind of see where that lands first, where the utilities are and where some of these naming rights land, because that number could look a lot better depending upon how great of a job the Park District does in the hunt for those donors.
Thank you, Mayor. Further comments?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Berg, second by Lensky. Further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you to everybody that came and joined us and sat through. I know we did get an email today regarding volleyball. So next week you'll have an opportunity for public comment regarding that, but we appreciate the email. Item 3.10, Enclave Property Management, Latitude Phase 2 Tax Incentive Development Project. Mr. Phelan.
Yep. Council Vice President Weigel and members of Community Hall. You recall this project. I was here in December with the pre-application. You allowed us to move forward with a full application review. Michaela Hewitt is here on behalf of Baker Tilly. I'm going to ask her to summarize what she sees of the financial analysis of that. We also have Brevin Lancaster. He's from Enclave Development. He's here with us this evening. But I was just going to briefly go over the project in advance of Michaela. As you recall, this particular project, it is about we're saying about a $12 million project. It's 76 units. It is near Furniture Row on the other side of the road where you guys did approve that low and moderate income development. Marine took a look at what a 5-year 100% tax incentive would look like. Over years 1 through 5, it would be a net revenue gain of 16,000, or a little over 16,000. If you combine years 1 through 10, it's 932,000. Years 1 through 20 is 2.9 million, and then years through 1 through 30, if you combine all those years, it's over $5 million. So again, what we're proposing here, and Michaela will go over it, is a 5-year 100%. We have gotten the hint that, we want to keep these greenfield multifamily units within the city's 5-year jurisdiction that we have. I think with all these projects, it takes a few years to get these projects up and going, get them rented out. I think it minimizes a little bit of the upfront risk in that first 5 years. And Michaela's going to talk about how this project is financed, which will make some further sense. But then after year 5, it's fully taxed. But we give a 5-year runway to get these projects up and moving. If you would so approve this particular project this evening, what we're asking for preliminarily, it would be for a 5-year 100%. We'd set the public hearing date for March 2nd, 2026. So about a month from now at a follow-up city council meeting. I did follow up with Enclave and just ask how many units do they have in town. They have a little under 800 units in our community. They pay a little bit under $1.1 million in property taxes currently. And with all their properties, they're at about a 2.7% vacancy rate. And you can see that I provided you, we've gone over this before about what the vacancy rate is. I did attach what the current vacancy rate is from the Apartment Association. It shows that we're at 3.55 based on their survey. And like all surveys, they're all going to be a little bit different as we move forward. The other thing that we've talked to, you guys did approve moving forward with the county approved, the city council, we need the school board to approve a new process that would look at what we do with tax incentive projects beyond the 5 years. This is within the 5 years. However, the second phase of that will come up with some housing metrics, what kind of goals and expectations, parameters we want to work on. That is being worked on. Between the chamber, EDC is working on that, and Mayor Buczynski and I, we were speaking with Council President Sandy, and we are going to kick off some housing meetings and reports too. That's going to come, and I think we can apply some of those standards, whether it's with projects that are 5 years and longer, or with projects that are less than 5 years. But what we don't want to do is stop progress. We know that we need housing in our community. And I think you can see even over the weekend, Governor Armstrong cited one of his really misses in the last legislative session was housing. He had requested $50 million to be set aside to help promote housing and all kinds of housings, whether it's multifamily or single family. I think in this case, the city of Grand Forks, we've already got the infrastructure in place in this facility. We're not providing any grant funding. We're just helping to incentivize these first 5 years. So we're really facilitating this development to move forward and using the tools that we have and not providing any grant funds like the state of North Dakota is provided. So with that, I'm going to ask Michaela to go over the project, the financials of this particular project. Brevin is here on behalf of Enclave for any questions, and then we can follow up with any specific questions on this application.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. Michaela, floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, committee members. I will summarize the draft report that was in your packet regarding the financial assistance review for this project. To build on what Mr. Phelan said, the city did receive the request for financial assistance from Enclave for up to a 5-year 100% property tax exemption related to construction of a new 76 housing units with a mix of studio 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units The project is proposed as 4 stories, with the first floor including some tuck under parking spaces, and then detached parking garages, and then surface parking. It is on a greenfield piece of property, approximately 2.61 acres. The financial review that we completed to understand the need and the support for the 5-year 100% property tax exemption is based on 2 metrics, which I know we've discussed in previous projects, but I'll provide a brief overview for those. What we analyze when reviewing the financial need for this project is both what's referred to as the internal rate of return, or the IRR. This is the projected rate of return for the investors based on the cash flow of the project upon completion, as well as so it's essentially the return to the investors based on the cash flow and an anticipated hypothetical sale of the asset. Another measurement that we look at is the debt coverage ratio, or the DCR. And this is the ability of the operating incomes to support the debt service payments, essentially the projected revenues less operating expenses, and the net operating income that's available to support the debt repayment on the project. If the debt coverage is less than what the minimum lender standards are, that will impact the amount of financing that the project is able to achieve. Similarly, on the internal rate of return, if the projected rate of return to the investors is less than the minimum standards, then that impacts the level of equity financing that the project is able to attract. So essentially, when we're looking at the review of this project, what we're trying to understand is what the comparison of the with and without the 5-year property tax exemption has on the ability of the project to both support the projected debt service payments as well as provide reasonable returns to the investor. So diving in a little deeper on the financial analysis, what we look at again is on the operating pro forma. We look at the assumptions that are included, starting with the total sources and uses. The project is about $18.5 million project, proposed as 70% debt, 30% equity. The operating pro forma assumptions include the projected rents for each of the respective unit types, the studio, the 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, and comparing the rents for the operating revenues. There's some parking revenues and some other revenues. And then the operating expenses of the project are the standard typical operating expenses. And then the difference that we review is both with the property tax exemption based on the estimated total taxable value of about $11 million, with the building improvement value of about $10.4 million, and the corresponding taxes that would be paid without an exemption as compared to those with the property tax exemption. When we look at the total development cost of the project, that includes the construction. It's broken down in page 6 of the report, but there's the land acquisition, construction costs, the soft cost developer fee, and then the financing costs. And I did misspeak, or the actual development, total development cost is 16.585, not 18.5. So apologize for that. And again, the first mortgage, 70% is about 11.6 million, and equity is about 4.9 million. And when we're reviewing the assumptions to understand if they're reasonable and what might be impacting the need for financial assistance, looking at the construction costs of 13.4 million, looking at that in both the per square foot as well as a per unit estimate to understand if the construction costs are driving the need for assistance. In this case, the estimated construction cost is within the low range and is not considered as a factor within the overall need for the assistance. We looked at the developer's financing. Again, the assumption that they have is 70% debt, 30% equity. This does include debt financing, 5-year construction term with 6% interest, 3 years interest only. And that's allowing for the project to be constructed, stable or construction lease up into stabilization. And then the expectation is a refinance in year 5. One of the factors that is a consideration for the refinance is the interest rate. Currently, the developer's minimum financing is at 6%, and the permanent financing has been projected to be 5% with a minimum 1.2 times coverage. The actual interest rate will dictate how much financing the permanent amount, or excuse me, what the permanent loan amount will be, which will dictate what the actual amount of that permanent financing will be. Based on the 5% interest, what this is expected to do is allow for a portion of the equity investment to be also refinanced, which will, based on the maximum debt coverage ratio that can be achieved. And one of the factors is without the property tax exemption, the reduced cash flow, subject to what the permanent interest rates are, the minimum debt coverage of 1.2 is not expected to be met without the property tax exemption. With the property tax exemption, the debt coverage is expected to be healthy and able to support the refinance. So when we're reviewing these projects, what we want to understand is first, does the project, or what is the difference in the projected financial performance with and without the property tax exemption? Again, looking at the investor returns and the minimum debt coverage ratios based on the ability of the project to support both the equity and debt that's necessary for the financing. And ultimately, if there's a need for assistance through the pilot, if the amount that's been requested is reasonable. In this case, the factors that are contributing to the support for the property tax exemption are without the 5-year exemption, the rate of return is projected to be lower than what the minimum investor thresholds are, as well as based on what the actual interest rates are at the time of refinancing, ability of the project to meet the minimum lender debt coverage ratios of about 1.2 times. So our review of the project, again, based on what's been presented of the total sources and uses, the total development costs, the operating revenues, including the market rate rents and other income, the operating expenses, and the ability of the project to support the need for financial assistance. We can support the recommendation for a 5-year, up to a 5-year, 100% property tax exemption, based on what the project proposal, or excuse me, what the project as proposed is providing to the city. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have on the analysis or the financing of the project.
Thank you. Mr. Phelan, any further comments?
No, nothing further. As I stated, you allowed us to move forward on the pre-application in December. We have reviewed this particular project. And so we're asking to move forward with this preliminary recommendation of a 5-year 100%. To set the public hearing date for the first city council meeting in March to have this public hearing. And again, this is within 5 years, so we're not going to go to the other taxing entities. I did ask the developer, will you move forward without the tax incentive that is noted, and they will not move forward. So really, this investment is hinging on this 5-year incentive that we just described. They do have some investors that are excited about Grand Forks, but they really feel like within this 5-year period of time to help mitigate some of the risks up front that they're asking for this as part of that overall investment for this project.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. Comments from the committee? Mr. Friedolfs moves approval. Sorry. Second? Second by President Sandy. Further comments, Mr. Veen?
Mr. Veland, in the past, you've talked, are there other potential developers waiting to build that you know that are just out there?
Vice President Weigel and Councilmember Bean, I think we do. If you look at number one, we've talked about this one, but we anticipate bringing back Beacon. Obviously, we have new ownership. So we have two buildings up. That developer would like to move forward with the third building that would front Demers. And so we anticipate that project coming back. That developer is asking for something greater than, as we transition from that 25-year, 80% revenue bond, TIF bond, they are asking for something that would be beyond 5 years. So I think that's one where we'd have to go to all three entities, including the city council. I think you're going to have you are going to have the planning and zoning. You're going to have the Ray Richards development that does have an apartment unit. I suspect if they do get planning and zoning approval, that they will likely ask for an incentive for that particular project. And then you have the Burkholz project that you have approved from a planning and zoning. And I know we've got some special assessment districts. Obviously, there'll be apartment units and some commercial development on that parcel. I don't know if they're going to ask for any further incentives, but I know there will be multifamily units and some commercial. I would anticipate a possible ask on that particular project too.
Yeah, and I think we've talked a little bit in the past about having some type of a metrics for what we should be looking for. What is a healthy vacancy rate, and what is the impact of doing some of these projects that we're talking about? Because it is impactful to the whole community when you start looking at such things just as rental rates. And has some impact on just the single family houses too. Somehow I thought we need to get our arms around this a little bit more, and would like to see us get some better metrics put together of what we should be expecting and what our goal is. At some point in time, do we need to do this at all? We know it might not financially work for the developer, but does the city need it too? It should be a win-win, and it seemed like more studies should be going into that.
And I think, as we discussed, Councilmember Bean, I think in March, we'll be back with some of those metrics and benchmarks. There is going to be a review. It's going to be supported by the EDC, and also what the chamber are going to help support that review. And so thankfully the city will not have to fund that further review that you're asking for. And then I think also once we get that review, I know Council President Sandy would like to take up housing too, but I think by the time that gets set up, we'll have some further information to derive. I should say one other thing on the single family front. The home builders are going to have start some meetings in February, and they're going to get some feedback from the various single family developers too. So that's one of their priorities this year. So we're going to get some further information on the single family housing front and some things that we can do, whether it's financing, funding, regulatory, and that's going on at the same time. And I think we're coming in at a really good time with Council President Sandy leading this, is that there are lots of partnering groups that want to engage on this issue. And so I think it'll be a good time for Council President Sandy to help lead this.
Thank you, Mr. Veen. Further comments? Mayor?
Yeah, I'll just follow up on that. I know President Sandy, I think he's had conversation with Mr. Veen as well, and I think that's needed. We need to look at what's coming from a housing standpoint, but we also need to look at what's coming from an employment standpoint and growth standpoint. So I think we'll engage some economists, so a lot of different, so it'll be different than what the EDC and the chamber is going to do. But I know President Sandy led one. I think it's been about 12, 13 years. Some of the findings from that led to action by the council that was highly successful. So now we're in a different place now. This is we're almost the 2030s here soon. So I think it'll be highly beneficial. I think that'll kick off in earnest here this spring. And like others have said, President Sandy is going to lead that just like he did the commission, the Blue Ribbon Commission, back 12, 13 years ago. So looking forward to seeing the findings from that.
Thank you, Mayor. Any further comments? I believe we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Move on to item number 4, city council member discussion matters. Ms. Berg,
No, thank you.
Ms. Linsky, Mr. Friedolfs, Mr. Veen, President Sandy.
Good meeting, thank you.
All right, I don't have any comments. Is there a motion to adjourn by Berg, second by Lunsky? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.